Almost everyone knows what the feeling of shame is. Let's talk about its anatomy. Shame is a complex feeling, and it belongs to so-called self-conscious emotions, as it involves the evaluation of the self. It is also known as a bad, negative, or toxic feeling, and it's really often discussed with reluctance. Unlike other emotions, shame does not seem to have distinctive universal facial expressions, and it's not experienced the same in different cultures and countries. But let's see how these emotions develop and why are they different. First, we have primary basic emotions. They include happiness, sadness, fear, anger, and disgust. And these emotions are primary as they require little or no cognition. Later, around 18 months, such self-conscious emotions develop, and they are non-evaluative. It is connected with the development of me or self-awareness. Such emotions as embarrassment, envy, empathy emerge. Around the age of 3, children already start to learn about standards, rules, goals, and then they can evaluate their own behavior. They also make attributions about themselves. And all these complex cognitive abilities facilitate the development of self-conscious evaluative emotions. Shame, guilt, pride belong to this category. Shame appears as a conflict between ego, the real self, and ego ideal. Shame is a result of one's perception of their social rank, behavior, personality characteristics, for example, being a boring or dishonest person, personal attributes such as body shape, size, weight. It's really quite difficult to understand the shame as it has only 50-60% accuracy in its recognizing, while, for example, anger or disgust has 80. But anyway, we can recognize shame by some body responses and non-verbal expressions. And these include gaze aversion, downward head, slumped shoulders, collapsed posture, but no unique facial expressions. From the body perspective, it has such responses as blushing, increasing of body temperature, sweating, and other symptoms as we have during stress or depression. And this is because of hormone cortisol, also known as a stress hormone. Also, the work of cytokines is increasing, and cytokines are small proteins that affect changes in cognitive functions, vaccine efficacy, response to infections, and many others. So, it's really important to keep such emotion under control and stay healthy mentally and physically.
The types of shame. The first type of shame we have is state shame. This is the kind of shame that is situational. This refers to the kind of shame someone might feel in a particular situation while taking the walk of shame from a special friend's house, for example. State shame is said to regulate social interaction and increase humility or conformity. This is not connected to the individual's sense of being or their personality. It is simply as a result of something that happened. Following this, we have trait or chronic shame, which refers to a frequent or constant feeling of shame. This form of shame is a state of being. At the trait level, an individual's identity is filled by a sense of worthlessness, inadequacy, and helplessness. The frequent reminders and awareness of one's faults could lead to the development of trait shame. Those with trait shame are usually more likely to have psychological problems such as depression and anxiety. Following this, we have shame proneness. This refers to an individual that is more prone to feel shame. Individuals who are shame prone have a tendency to feel shame when they are exposed to a specific negative situation. People with this form of shame, similarly to trait shame, are more likely to develop psychological issues like depression and anxiety. Now we will be speaking about shame in the context of culture. I would like you all to take a moment and pause this video. When you pause the video, I'd like you to think of what shame means in your culture. And once you've done that, write it down. And then once you've written it down, by the end of this video, you can add it to your comments so that we can all see what the differences are in what shame means in these different contexts. In the previous activity, you were asked to think of the word shame and what it means in your culture. This is because shame is not something that has a clear definition. Each culture has its own way of viewing and dealing with shame. In research, however, there's a clear distinction made between cultures that are individualistic and collectivist in nature. There are fundamental differences in how shame is perceived, received, and processed, and in the following slide, we'll take a closer look. Collectivist and individual cultures have a stark difference in how shame is viewed and dealt with. As we can see, shame takes on so many different shapes and faces in different cultures, although one thing is for sure. Not one person can claim that they have never felt shame before.
Now we're going to talk about shame in education. Shame plays a central role in education and self-development, particularly throughout childhood and adolescence. Available findings have shown adolescence to be a particularly relevant period for the development of shame. So, first, we're going to talk about healthy shame and helpful shame. Healthy shame functions as a reminder that we are human and that we are supposed to make mistakes. Healthy shame helps us set limits and use our energy in constructive and realistic. The temporary experience of shame is common, inevitable, and mostly adaptive. However, the harmful shame also be detrimental, maladaptive, and linked to several psychological disorders. If it encompasses persistent and overwhelming feelings of being inferior, inadequate, and worthless, which in turn tend to guide the individual's behaviors. So, shame arises from early interactions with significant others. For example, our parents, non-parental adults, siblings, and peers. But the relationship between shame and different psychological symptoms and disorders may rely on how each person copes with his or her own shame feelings. At this point, males and females are very different. So first, we're going to look at our females. Research findings propose that adolescent females tend to present more internalizing and self-destructive behaviors. For example, depression or self-harm, they're in order to suppress shame or other negative emotions. But on the contrary, adolescent males tend to express more externalizing behaviors directed towards to others. For example, some aggressive behaviors like fight or crime or something. After understanding the impact of shame on adolescents, teachers and parents can make some interventions in education of adolescents, like to guide them to face the shame correctly. So this is our references. Thank you for watching.